You can stream us on all platforms, including Google, Spotify, etc., etc. Welcome to the Tony Michael Show podcast. You're about to step into my world.
Here is Tony Michael!
Tony Michaels! It's just who I am. I don't walk in the studio and say I work with all these artists. This is me. Hey, so I'm so happy to bring in the house today King Jaquell Martin. He's the author and now the director and creator of the film A War on Friendly Grounds. Let's give it up for him and his cast. Woo! Yes, give it up, let's give it up, let's give it up. I'm a little wild with him, y'all, because I think it was amazing. I thought it was amazing, the interview we did last season. So, what's up, y'all?
Hey, what's good?
What's going on? So, King, do me a favor. Interview both of your cast members.
Okay. Well, first, I want to thank my cast members and everyone who's not here who did an amazing job. I definitely want to shout out my boy, Tori Thompson, who's doing the editing right now. He's actually editing while I'm doing the interview. Oh, wow. So I just appreciate him putting in the work so that I can do other things to help promote the film. I want to start off with Ashley Aguilar, who played Lisa, my leading lady.
Let's give it up for Ash.
Yeah. And then on my other side, I have Jimmy Lee, who played Officer Benjamin Clark.
Let's give it up for Jimmy.
Yeah.
I got a lot of questions for you, Jimmy.
So first and foremost, I would have never thought I would be here. You know what I'm saying? I never thought that day that I would have a book. I never thought that day that I would have a movie. But they always say that if you just trust God, that, you know, your cup will overflow, man. And it's been so many blessings. I can't tell you how many blessings allowed me to be able to create this movie just from other people showing love, being touched by the story, that are just tired of this happening in America. So, I mean, I know off record we talked about funding and stuff like that, and I really didn't have the funding. I just trusted God, and God touched people's hearts, which allowed the funding to flow, which allowed the movie to happen, and that's how we're here now. That's right. First and foremost, I want to introduce Ashley Aguilar, who was my leading lady. Simply amazing. You will also remember Ashley from the first time when I did the interview about the book, who inspired me to write the book, and I want to make sure that I'll give her the credit that's due, because I definitely wouldn't be here without her in my life or in this process. So I'm really, truly grateful.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you. Man, I loved working on this project, like from beginning to end. From being in the process of, writing the book, I was already invested into it, and then it becoming a film was even more amazing. But one big thing about it was being on set while everything's happening, because you've read the book, but then when you're on set and seeing, okay, here are the police officers, here's his reality. It's such a sensitive thing, so you want to feel like you're playing the character well, but also being true to his story. Yeah. And it was so emotional on set, because it's like, okay, we're acting and we get it. It's an acting set. There are the cameras. There's the crew. But this happened to you.
So you've seen it all come to life. It
was all coming to life, and it was just very emotional and touching. But I'm so glad that you brought me on.
Yeah.
Let me just ask her. I just want to see, how did you feel about playing that role? How did you feel about stepping in? Because that was, you played your girl,
the ex.
She played your ex.
Yes.
Right. Because not only was something happening to him, it was happening to you too.
Right. And it was difficult to play, because in real life with your partner, you're always wondering, like, okay, if they get stopped by police or this or that, or when we get pulled over by police, it's a real interesting situation. It's something I think about all the time in real life. So playing that type of character and connecting to, okay, how did she feel in that situation? Because I understand it's very traumatizing for him, but at the same time, how do you feel when that's happening to your partner? You can't retaliate. You can't step in the middle of it. You feel powerless. You're not protecting them. That was a whole dynamic in itself.
Wow. Man, I can't wait to see your role in that, because I know it was really, when he was explaining to me earlier, last time we sat down and talked, it was powerful. He was telling me about, your role and how it would happen. So, anyway, so we got Jimmy over there. Lee.
So Jimmy Lee, matter of fact, let's do the auditioning process. What did you think about the auditioning process where it came to casting to play Officer Benjamin Clark?
It was intense. I mean, it was very, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain what happened. Usually as an actor, you do whatever prep you can, whether it's memorizing your lines or whatnot, but I was not expecting what had took place when I walked in the room.
Right.
When I walked in, it was a very positive, bringing in, but then all of a sudden it switched. And, King, but it was genius what he did, because he pushed me to those limits to see how far I would go to create that world. And it helped me because, one, I saw where we were going, and two, it got me out of my head. So it helped me, be real. And that's what's needed when you act. And no matter how long you do this, it's, you get nervous when you go in for an audition or a performance. But King, with his energy and the passion, just took the nerves right away. And it's once it was over, and I went through this when we were shooting too. It's like I didn't want to leave. It was the weirdest thing, how to explain that. Because normally on certain shoots, or when you're doing film, sometimes you just want to get out of there.
Do the job and go.
Yeah, but in that world, even when you weren't in front of the camera, it's like I didn't want to leave. It was like, even at the end of the night when everyone's leaving, it's like, do we really have to go?
Oh wow, that's a good. That's great. What did you think? I know when he was telling me, like you said, it's very intense.
Yeah.
And I thought whoever plays the cop has to really. What was his name?
Officer Benjamin Clark.
Yeah, Benjamin Clark. They have to really go there. It's either go there or go or not. I studied with I know a little bit about acting. I studied with Howard Fine for 10 years.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm a choreographer. But I studied with him while I was, because I always wanted to act too.
Yeah.
So I kind of, know, but a little bit of something, I wouldn't put me in you guys' shoes. But when he was telling me about the character, I was like, whoever plays this guy has got to go there and they got to stay there and get it right. And it's hard. Like you said, it's intense.
Yeah, because even it's hard to explain. It's very mentally and physically draining. So even though it was very rewarding, it was a catch-22 because you're right. You had to stay somewhere in that zone because the topic and what we were doing, it's not me. And to see what was happening with them and other actors, as a person, it hurts, because it's like, that's not right. I wasn't raised that way. Like, that's not right. Like, I'm ready to get up and like, let's stop. But because I have to do this, like, I kind of have to find a way to block that and create something else to portray what needs to be done. And again, luckily, since everybody from cast and crew had the same goal and the same energy, it just helped me go there and just keep redoing it until we were done.
Where were you originally raised at? Where are you originally from?
Oh, right here, hour outside of Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Inland Empire, San Bernardino.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because I was like, it's such a different world in the Carolinas.
Yes.
It's a whole different world. And even I grew up in the Midwest. Different world. Still, people don't understand. It's still there. So for you to be able to embody that and then, you know what I'm saying, feel the emotion of it afterwards too and just be, I kept saying, I can't wait to see who played this guy. Because this guy was crazy. So the whole process of filming how did this come about? Because did you guys shoot on Radford Lot? CBS Radford?
Yes.
You did? How did you get that?
I'm a student at NIFA, so we're able to shoot there free on the weekends.
What?
Yeah. So that was a blessing.
We might have to shoot some of Tony Michael's podcast over there.
That was definitely a
I
blessing.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so actually me and DJ were in first year together, and now I'm taking the bachelor's program.
Oh, you doing it, man.
Yeah. And the one thing that I wanted to say about Jimmy Lee and Ashley when they came in, because it was such a sensitive subject, I wanted to let them know that they were in a safe environment. I wanted to let them know that, especially Jimmy Lee, for the things that he had to do and the things that he had to say, that, bro, we know this is not you as a person. I want you to understand that we're not, anything that you say right now, we're not looking at it we're not looking as if this is you.
You, right.
You know what I mean?
This is a character
you're playing. This is the character. So let's get this out the way. I need you to say, nigga.
Right.
And it was something that he was really terrified to do
say, right.
or uncomfortable to do. So there were different things that I had to do to push Jimmy Lee to get there. I had to get in his face. I had to say some difficult things that he probably wasn't used to him saying to finally get that out. And I'm like, now, action. And then once it clicked for him, because he didn't take it personal and he was open to the coaching and he was open to catching the emotional ball, when I said action, I was able to see that's the character. That is him right there. That is exactly what I need. And I'm so grateful for him to be vulnerable enough to be able to endure the pain of telling that truth. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially even with it coming to Ashley and the character that she had to play, to be vulnerable enough, because we always talk about black men and getting what happens to black men, but we never talk about the abuse of black things
women.
that black women go
Right.
through,
That's
and
right.
how not just by the police they're abused, but just, you know, by society as a whole.
Yep.
And for her to be able to tell her truth and her vulnerability playing this character through Lisa, of what it's like to not only endure that, but to endure the simple fact of watching the black man getting beaten and then getting beaten yourself. So she had to go through both processes. She had to go through the process of, one, what it felt like to see me get beaten, then two, what it felt like to be beaten, you know herself, and to be sexually harassed, because these are different things, that challenges that don't get talked about, that get swept under the rug, that black women face. So I wanted her to know that it was a safe environment. I wanted her to know before anybody did anything, hey, is it okay to touch you? Hey, are you comfortable with this? Hey, are you comfortable with that? So that way that she can feel comfortable and free enough to tell her truth in her vulnerability state. So I think that truth and being honoring the people who have to play these characters allowed us to do something great.
I think that is, to me, that's key. That means that this director and this creator of this, that you're so in tune with that aspect of it, because a lot of directors don't do that.
Right.
And I think for Jimmy Lee to be able to find acceptance in that, because, you know, he could almost be, I want to say, people could all, you know, on a set, if you don't watch it, once you say cut, people still could count him as that character.
Right.
Because it's so powerful.
Right.
And then that gives him a bit. So for you to make sure that he feels comfortable with going there, and then the whole crew, really accepts him and say, look, this is not who I am. This is who I, because acting is personal. No matter what, it's very, very personal. So for you to do that for him, I think that's amazing. I think for you to do it for Ashley as well, because it's so, like you said, it's so powerful, and there's so many dynamics going on in this movie.
Right.
Which I know as a book, but I haven't seen it as a movie. But it's so many dynamics until you got to get the green flag to be able to do this and do that, and then for you to be able to push him, that's
right.
That's so, like, I just think it just shows who you are as a person. So we should applaud him for that, y'all. So y'all got to give it up for him. That's dope.
Well, I don't want to take all the credit. I did have my co-director, Deontay Gray, who I definitely want to give a shout out to. He's in San Diego right now pushing his film, Loving Byron. Make sure you guys support that. I want to give another shout out to Skeeter Jones, who was also a director, DP, a mentor to me, who helped me create this environment. Man, Tony, I can't explain the vibrations that we were working from, bro.
And you guys shot the whole weekend for that?
We shot Friday at Knife in the Classroom, and then we shot Saturday, Sunday at Radford Studios.
Okay.
And I wanted to give a special shout out to NIFA and Radford Studios for allowing us to be able to help bring this movie to life, because without them, I wouldn't have what I have right now, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I believe, personally, I truly, truly believe that God allowed the right people to be on the right set and cast the right people for all the right reasons, who told the truth.
Yeah.
And when you're in an environment with people doing something that they love, and they're doing it from their profession, and they're doing it in a safe space where they can be vulnerable to tell the truth, magic happens.
For sure.
Yeah.
Man, I was just thinking about, as you were talking, I was thinking about how that stuff was coming to life, because I remember when you were telling the story, I was captivated. Like, I had to shake myself out of it.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, Tony, you are on the podcast, because I had got so intrinsically involved in what you were saying.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. Tell people that didn't see season 1 of Tony, the Tony Michael Show podcast, your episode. Give them a synopsis of the story so that they can understand Ashley and Jimmy Lee's part in it. And
Okay. First of all, this is 15 years in the making. This happened in 2005. I was a soldier stationed in Germany. I just got done being stationed in South Carolina. I was coming home from work. I did a uniform inspection with my soldier, PFC Carlisle. Coming home just like a regular day. I played semi-pro football or whatever else. And I want people to understand that this is based off a true story. So the story that you see in the movie has been altered because it's not a document of everything personally, but we added different elements to change different colors to make it, you know, a movie as well. So you guys will be able to enjoy that. But coming home, like a regular day, I was well known in the neighborhood, used to play semi-pro football, take the kids to the games and everything else. There was a police officer in my neighborhood. He was supposed to be there looking for a white male flashing little kids. As we go down the parking lot, I look at him, I acknowledge him by nodding my head. I park my car, I get out my car, go to the door, put the keys in the door, I hear a car peel off. Next thing I know, I see an officer running up to me, hey you. I'm like, who, me? He was like, yeah, you come here. I'm out here for a noise violation. I was like, well, sir, it couldn't be me, I just got home. He asked me for my license and registration. I handed him all my paperwork. I handed him a paper license because I lost my picture license in Germany. So DMV gives you a paper license. So when he saw the paper license, he was like, what the hell is this? And I was like, dude, if you just calm down, you can see I'm a soldier. I just got back from Germany. And so when I handed him the paper license, he said, I will not call him dude. And that's where everything, I guess, went wrong.
And so let me say this though, if I'm not mistaken, I remember you were in your uniform by the way too.
Yes, sir.
So he knows you're a veteran.
Yes, sir. I was in my military uniform when all this took place.
Okay.
So he was like, I will not address him as dude. I was like, well, you address me by hey you. He was like, well, that's because I don't know your name. I was like, well, bro, I don't know your name either. Now, during all this time frame, God put people in the right places, right? The police officer's mother who had left to go to work or whatever else, her mom was watching the whole situation. There's a young man, his name is Jaquell. He lived in an apartment building next to me, and his mother was there or whatever else. Jaquell saw the whole situation when the police officers started attacking me and hitting on me. Right. So he went and got his mom, and then they came out and they were watching the whole situation as well. So the officer slams me to the ground. He starts punching on me, kicking on me, making all these racial comments. Police officer's mother runs downstairs. My ex comes outside. She's like, oh my God, what's going on? He makes all these racial comments. Now, the crazy thing about it is he admits to it. I mean, sometimes when you're used to getting away with stuff, what's the fear behind it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So all the racial comments, how he's glad Johnny Cochran's dead, I'm another black statistic, just all this just racial stuff, I was going to ruin my career. You know, and actually that came true, you know what I mean, in a certain type of way. But what he didn't know was what he thought was bad actually turned out to be a blessing for me. Because if it never happened, I wouldn't be here on the Tony Michael show, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have a book. I wouldn't have a movie. I wouldn't know all these amazing people in my life. So sometimes I want people to understand this, if you're really listening. One moment doesn't define your life.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you got to go through rain to be able to see your rainbow, you know? And I just really want people to understand that, you know what I mean? Because after this whole situation happened or whatever else, you know, I met with Jake Tapper and I did an interview with him. And he said, if you saw the officer again, what would you say? And I felt like that was a setup question, but it was an honest question as well. I said I would forgive him. And I think people get forgiveness confused because they look at it as a weakness. You hear on social media, we're tired of black people forgiving and this and anger. Bro, that's not gonna solve anything. And what I did in the forgiveness was for my peace, was for me to be able to write a book, was for me to be able to create a movie, because my book and the movie and having a relationship with all these fantastic people will last longer than fighting back, to get a gun or going to do anything ignorant. That's right. And if you're so angry about what's going on, how do we come together collectively to make a difference? You know?
That's true.
So it's bigger than white and black, because you can see I have Jimmy Lee standing right next to me, and this is a brother to me. You know what I mean? So it's bigger than that. How do we heal together? Because as human beings, if we created this problem, how do we become the solution? And just having someone like Ashley on set to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to be a strong black woman in that, to be able to be how we see when someone gets shot, a black male gets shot, how black women are at the forefront.
Right,
you know what I mean?
You know what? That's a good way to segue into Ashley, because I was gonna ask you, and I'm gonna ask you this too, Jimmy Lee. What was your preparation, if you could share any? Because I know as actors, you guys do your everybody do their thing. But what was your preparation? Because you know there was times where you would be violated in this movie in so many different ways. What was your prep for that? How did you prepare yourself for that?
Ooh, there are a few different ones. So there was the sexual harassment.
Right, that's what yeah.
Right, and that's something I'm always like advocating for different experiences I've had in life when I was younger. So I had to separate, any trauma from that to just playing it, realistically.
Right.
And that's tough because there's so many different acting techniques. Some techniques say, play off of that. If you've experienced things, if you've
Right.
gone through
They say
things,
use it.
bring that up and use that. But
Yeah.
what you could do, you could really drain that. There's only so many times you can imagine your mother passing, or imagine, your grandmother on the hospital bed until, you're just immune to it and you're not going to emote off of that anymore. So you have to authentically connect to what's happening in the moment. So I had to put myself in the position of, your partner at the time and say, how would that feel in the middle of all that happening? And to start getting touched. Like, you're
Right.
already being berated from having experienced this, being beat, and now they're going to just add insult to injury
Right.
on top of that. And then there was one part that was a real fear, because I have younger brothers. I have three
Okay.
younger brothers, and two of them are still in Louisiana, which is one of the worst places to live as a black male.
It sure
Yeah.
is.
Highest rate of incarceration in the country.
Yep.
Yep.
It's really bad. And I have two brothers who are still in their teens, and it's just,
They're just living, they're growing and living life.
they're growing, living life. And like one of my brothers, he's on the autism spectrum, but functionally, and when you're in a state like that, that's the worst thing
That's
to
the
be,
worst
because
thing,
if
yeah.
you're functionally autistic, people don't know that you have this going on.
Right.
So when he's in situations where he's out past curfew, we're wondering, like, okay, if cops stop you, like 8 police officers came one time because he was just out past curfew. And it's just, you're afraid because you're like, they don't know he has this condition.
That's
He might
right.
start running. He might spaz out.
That's
I don't
right.
know. So I have a real fear of, cops interacting potentially
With him.
like with him or with any of my siblings. So to be in that situation and see it happening,
Right.
it just made me even connect more to, like, wow, that happened to you. So it wasn't too hard to emote on set because those were true fears.
Right. Jimmy Lee, how did you? I think you being a part of this is great, because what it does is it gives you as a white male in America a whole different view, because you have not that you even grew up like this character that you played, but it gives you a whole different perspective because you're getting it from someone that literally he's actually explaining to you this is what happened and showing you, and then you seeing it. How did that affect you?
Yeah, it's hard to explain because I was brought up basically old school. So it's like my father was all about like respect, right? You respect me, I respect you.
Right.
If someone doesn't respect you, then you earn, you make sure that you earn that respect, or you don't have nothing to do with them. So when I see that, when I was hearing the story, it's kind of like one of those things where it was the complete opposite of what I was raised to believe. This man was stealing his other half's respect, just taking it from him because he had the power. And so
I think it's a great way for you to say what you just said, to taking that respect.
yeah, and that, for anybody that's ever been bullied or hurt or whatever it may be, that's mentally and physically devastating. And I know from someone that, because where I grew up in San Bernardino, there was, it was the opposite, right? So there was a lot of times you're being challenged growing up, just because it is what it is.
Right.
It's just the city. So
Right.
you have to defend yourself, and there's lots of bullying and this and all this stuff you hear about. And when that happens, whatever level it may be, I mean, it just sucks. And you've got two choices where you either learn to defend yourself or stand up for yourself, or you run.
That's right.
But if you run, again.
How many times you're gonna run? You're gonna eventually have to.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it was just, to be honest, to put it bluntly, it pissed me off, because I was like, man, because if that would happen to me or my family or my other half, I would have been, I don't know what I would have done.
Right.
I'd have been freaking out too. I mean, and being the fact that, me and King has had conversations, that he inspires me, because again, a lot of people after all these years would have gave up. They would have went and possibly did something that was harmful to themselves or
That's
others.
exactly right.
They wouldn't have followed a positive path. They wouldn't have been trying
right.
to take all those insecurities or whatever that did to him.
Yeah, I commend him for that.
Yeah.
To taking that negative and turn it into a plus positive. I mean, you took that whole narrative and turned it around, and I just was so impressed. I was like, y'all gotta get the book, and that's why I wanted to have y'all in here again. And I was like, this is, and I as I saw you posting and watching it, I love the fact that the level of it was so amazing too. That like the quality of it, you could see, and to have quality actors and actresses in there was just amazing. So, what else have you done, Ashley? You've been in. How long have you been? Are you originally from here?
I'm originally from the real LA, Louisiana.
She said, "Oh, that's why you said LA, the rich." She said, "The real LA, y'all." So I want to go. So you guys, we're gonna shout out that again. All of that again, but I want to find out about what they've done, because to have great actors and actresses like this in this film, they've got to have been out there grinding and doing their thing otherwise. So you're originally from Louisiana.
Yeah, background is all theater.
Okay.
And then I came to LA the end of 2014, and for 2.5 years just training, no auditioning or anything.
Who you train with?
I trained at the Baron Brown studio in Santa Monica.
What is
It's
that?
a Meisner studio. I love that it
That
builds.
is so interesting.
It's
Wow.
such a great, it was really good to get that foundation, because now out in the workplace, people can tell the difference.
Right.
And last year, big things have been happening. I recently signed with SDB.
That's
and
really good. What does it stand for?
As their initials.
Oh, okay. But for what? It's the agency.
It's the agency.
agent?
Yeah.
SDB Partners.
Okay.
And to even be able to get in that type of room, because they rep some of the top talent. A little over a year ago, Kaylee Cuoco from Big Bang Theory.
Wow.
She was the top paid actress in the world. And they rep her.
$1 million, was it like $1 million an episode for that, right?
She was getting the bag.
The bag.
But
Donate to us.
But I've done some fun things. I've done The Purge on USA Network.
Oh, wow.
A new volleyball series came out recently. It's on Facebook Watch called The
Okay.
Setup. I'm playing
gotta
that
check that out.
alongside Hannah Stocking. And I'm writing a lot. I'm ready to produce a lot of my own stuff, because I'm a screenwriter as well.
Good.
And I've just been pushed in the direction, especially lately, because one thing I've always said is I don't really see dark-skinned female millennials in TV. It's you're either in high school or you're 35 plus strong.
It's
black
very
woman.
true. It's true. You know,
That
there's
middle area?
one when you say that, the only one that pops out of my mind is she used to be on Star, but she just got a role on Grownish. I don't know
Ryan
if
Destiny.
is that her name?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Beautiful dark-skinned woman,
Gorgeous
and dark-skinned
girl.
sister, and
Beautiful.
you don't see it. You just don't see it.
You don't.
You know what? This is crazy, man. It's so interesting you say this, because I be telling my son, because he's encountered some things, but what I be saying is that a lot of people think that there's a lot of representation of Black Americans on TV, and there's a lot of stories, because it's so many people doing things. You got Tyler Perry doing his stuff, and you got Oprah doing
Right.
her stuff, and then you got Lee Daniels doing his stuff. But we were looking across the board at the networks, and I was like, at the 4 major networks first, do you know that there's still only one Black show, and that's Grownish, and that's ABC.
It's crazy, right?
There's no more, and then I was talking to them across, and I said, Cross, look, CBS, they just sprinkle. They just sprinkle in the episodes, but there's no representation of just different stories. I mean,
Right.
we've got to get to this point where there's a million narratives of Black folks.
Exactly.
Black sisters, Black brothers, there's everybody, but there's a million narrative, but you just don't see it. And I think, like they were talking about the Oscars again, I said, okay, what is it, 4 years later, we back at Oscars all white again. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Y'all, we don't stop, really. It doesn't stop. So the fact that you would say that, I was like, okay, that's true. You just don't see it. So you got to create those narratives
you
for
have to put
yourself.
out your own content, and you have to be accountable for how you put out content, how
Thank
you
you.
cast.
Yes.
Because even though we want to see good representation, but when we don't have integrity in how we cast, we start bringing in all these social media stars, we get people. We justified not casting us. We justified bringing in that British actor.
This
if
girl
we
gonna get me
cast-
up in, because it's
That's
happening in the
something
dance
true.
world, happens in the choreography world too. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It's got bananas now. I'm like, you guys, you still gotta go in the room and have the experience. You can see the talent, but you still gotta go in there in the room. You gotta go into the acting room. You gotta go into the dance class. You gotta come inside and bring that in and feel it. You can't just get it like you said from that.
Right.
So with Lee, not
Jimmy Lee.
Jimmy Lee. Where'd your dad get that name from? Where do you think that came from?
Basically, to make a long story short, my father was in the military.
Okay.
And he became best friends when he was stationed, and he had never heard the name before, and I guess the guy was just a really good soldier.
Okay.
So he decided he wanted to give it to one of his boys and
Gave it to you.
gave it to the middle son.
Man.
And he said, do something with it.
And you are.
And I said, I'm
You
still
are,
trying,
man.
Pops.
So, how long you been in the game, and what are some of your credits?
So I started in 2005. I did some extra work. I was a part of movie Jarhead. And
I
then,
remember that movie.
Yeah, so I was a Marine. So I
Okay.
spent like 2 weeks in Victorville, but that was like my first taste of the waters. And then I want to say about 2011 is when I got consistent. And I like anybody else, I did college, theater, independent films, student films. I mean, I started commuting to LA since I was an hour outside. Started taking technique at Playhouse West, which is another Meisner school.
That's so interesting too, because I never, because I didn't study Meisner. I used to always be like, huh? But it's interesting to talk to you guys and see that how you study Meisner, because the technique that I was studying at Howard is Stanislavski, Uta Hagen.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
more of sense memory as opposed to that. So that's good. But I mean, you guys got cast in this movie, so I know your process is amazing. The Meisner technique is great.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I always liked about Meisner was even he said it was that I'm not telling you that my way is the only way. I mean, if you can utilize something from my way, then use it. But
that's
it's all about getting to that place of the truth, you know. So, yeah, it was for me. I always like to try to go off of my instinct a lot when I'm doing a production or theater production or film, because usually it's right on the money. And if it's not, you're not too far off. Because if it doesn't feel real to you, it's not going to look real to anyone else.
That's true. Right. What is both of you guys, let me ask you this. Do you enjoy film or theater more? But both of you are from theater. So that makes me think, tell me.
Such a tough question. Overall, I would say theater more because it feels so real. It's all one take. It's happening in real time. It's so much more synergistic. It's not start over. It's not, subtle.
It's right there.
It's right
you
there.
do it there and that's it. There's no retakes or anything.
It's so open and it's so free. But I do like theatrical because of how many people you can impact. Putting that representation out there is important. And I know, like a lot of people say, oh, if you focus more on film, that's just because you want to be famous, because if you love acting, just go and do theater forever. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. It's not about being humble, but it's also about taking that responsibility for the representation.
That's exactly right. And also, too, it's about growing. You know what I'm saying? It's about
Right.
growing. You do some theater, then you go and do some acting, because it's a different process. Everything is going to be a different process.
Different.
And you want to make a living doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of people that are dancers, but they're in dance companies. And y'all know dance companies. I'm sorry, but, they just don't get the funding. I mean, there's more dancers that are on TV, or there's more dancers that do music videos that make more money than dancers that are in theater, like the Garth Fagan dance group, or even Alvin Ailey, or even Dance Theater Harlem. That they don't make a lot of money. So I feel as actors, you do the theater, you bounce back and forth. You do what you got to do, make that living, still, home in on your craft. Right. What do you theater?
It's funny because when I first started, I, for some reason in my head, thought I was just going to do film. And what happened was I did a short film. It was my first thing I had done after Jarhead. And then a buddy of mine asked me to go and try out for an improv group. And I did. And I really enjoyed it. And that lady that was running it, she said, you should come and try out tonight. I'm doing an open invitation for a theater production. And I went home and thought about it. I had a few hours. And I was like, what? Because I never saw myself on stage. But I tell you what, it was one of the best things I could have did, because like Ashley said, there's so much that takes place in that world of theater, the complete constant building the character and rehearsal, and then trying to connect with the audience, because either you get it or you don't.
That's right. It's right in front. I love live performance too. That's me. I love live performance. So we're going to wrap this up, y'all, but I want to just first of all thank King Jaquell Martin, Ashley, and Jimmy Lee for coming in, for showing us, and King, thanks for sharing your story with us and continuing your story. That's what I think is brilliant. I think it's brilliant when you continue it and continue. So any last words, anything you want people to follow, let everybody, tell them where to follow you or look at you or whatever, or check your workout or whatever.
I'll start with Ashley. How can I find you?
If you're looking for me, you can find me on Instagram that's the best place because I keep everything there in my website link. It's at Follow Ashley. That's the word follow and ASHLI. Follow Ashley.
Jimmy Lee.
Yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, and I'm the only Jimmy Lee, so it's JIMILEE out there. So Jimmy Lee Allen, and yeah, all my stuff's on there.
Okay. And King, when can we see the movie?
Coming to a film festival near you. We don't have the dates on yet. We're still in post-production. You guys can find me at King Jaquell Martin. That's KINGJAQUELLMARTIN. And the last thing that I want to say is I met this lady. Her name is Myrna Grant. She's no longer with us. And I can't really believe this is really happening. When I met her, she touched me on my stomach. And I'm like, what is this woman doing? This is weird, right? She touched me on my forehead, and she was like, you don't know who you are yet, baby. I said, excuse me, ma'am? She says, you don't know who you are yet. You heard me. I said, what do you mean by that? She says, you got to give birth to that. And I was like, what you talking about? She says, you look like you play sports. I said, I do. She said, who your favorite basketball player? Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, definitely my hero. The amazing thing that she said about Kobe, she said, what you know about Kobe? I was like, 81 points, 63 points versus Dallas. He went to Lower Marion High School, 5 championship rings. She was like, oh my God, you know a lot about Kobe, and that's amazing. But what's your stats? I said, what? She said, what are your stats? You mean to tell me that God gave you this gift of life and you don't know what you're supposed to do with your own life, but you know what everyone else is doing in their life? And that changed me, man. It changed how I looked at things. It changed my anger because the truth is I didn't know me. I didn't know what I had going on. And now, Myrna, I just want to tell you, God rest your soul, I get what I had to give birth to. I'm giving birth to this movie. I'm giving birth to the fact of healing. And that's what this movie is all about. I'm giving birth to accountability to black women and honoring black women and giving them the things that they were supposed to have, because at first I didn't have that. I fell short in that. And I'll be the first to say that that's something that I really didn't understand. And I'm so grateful for Ashley teaching me. I'm giving accountability to anyone who's ever lost their life and didn't get to tell their story, didn't get to talk about what they've been through, to the loved ones who miss their family members, who can't say I love you no more. We're giving accountability to that. And so that's what keeps me going. If that's y'all really want to know my secret, instead of being angry, instead of having all this pain, because I do, and I hide it behind a smile, yo, I'm here and I have another day to be alive, bro. Right. I think sometimes we take it for granted. I think we don't really count our blessings. I really don't think, the fact that Kobe ain't here no more, bro, that bothers me. Yo, I had a Kobe motorcycle. I've been in so many barbershops crying over Kobe and talking about how he's the GOAT over Michael Jordan. And the point is that he not here and I am still here. And one thing I can get from Kobe is what I'm going to do with that. Because three things happen in life. You're born and you die. So if you still here, what are you going to do? And I'm going to end it with this, Tony. Same way I ended it last time. If you died today, would you get an A+ on life's report card? And only you know the answer to that question. But if not, and you're blessed to see tomorrow, God gave you a chance to see another day. You better live like it's extra credit, because tomorrow's not promised.
Amen.
6 degrees of separation from doing something different. You can do something different with your life if you choose to. You just got to look in the mirror, which is the name of my production company, and ask yourself the tough questions to do something different.
Hey, and on that note, y'all, let's give it up for King Jaquell Martin and the cast of A War on Friendly Grounds. I want to thank y'all for coming in. Give it up. Thanks, man. That was good, man.
That's what we do, man.
Stay right there. Let's get a picture, man.